Cardinal George Pell has died at the age of 81. Vatican media reports that he passed away in Rome today after complications from hip replacement surgery.
Johnny, Australia's Cardinal George Pell, he's just passed away. What will be this man's legacy? George, Johnny? Yeah, George Pell has left us, Johnny. What will his legacy be? Well, George was a popular young bloke. He was born in Australia.
Pell was born in Ballarat in 1941.
Now, our millions of overseas viewers, Johnny, probably have no idea who the hell George Pell is, and that's probably not a bad thing. He was an A-level student. He was good at everything. Really? Yes. He was especially good at rugby, I hear. Rugby, I see. And he entered the Catholic priesthood at a young age, Johnny?
And ordained as a priest in 1966.
Yeah, and at a young age, in his early 20s, Johnny, he decided his calling was to join the Catholic priesthood. Yes, in his early 20s, I believe. But he was a rambunctious young bloke. And he quickly rose up through the ranks, Johnny. Yeah, in no bloody time. He was the head man, so to speak, in the Catholic Church in Australia. Australia's own bloody cardinal. He'd head over to the Vatican on a quite regular basis, and he got to know everybody over there. And he was apparently very ambitious. Now, all these cardinals, they all seem to be weird in the fact that they all want to be cardinals and they all want to be pope. Wouldn't you think if you're following Jesus, you'd be trying to be like Jesus? Yeah, ambitious. Now, this has always worried me about bloody priests and all that sort of stuff. If they're so devoted to Jesus and all that sort of stuff, how can you be ambitious and want to rise to the top and be leader of everybody and still follow the teachings of Jesus? Yeah, wouldn't you think if you're following Jesus, you'd be trying to be like Jesus? To me, it never made much bloody sense. Yeah, or even a bit hypocritical, dare I say it. But that's beside the point. Anyway, George went over there on a regular basis. Yeah, well, there it is. Yeah. A regular basis. He was mixing in the circles that he wanted to mix in. Yeah, the big knobs. Yeah, the big fellas. The fellas, I say, because I think they're all bloody blokes. But Johnny, it wasn't all smooth sailing for the ambitious priest, was it? Smooth sailing, Johnny? Well, you could put it like that, Johnny. A few bloody decades ago now, the shit hit the fan with shocking allegations of endemic child abuse in the Catholic Church.
The fact that it's been allowed to continue is one of the vilest failings of the Catholic Church.
George is head of the Catholic Church in Australia. He would come out semi-regularly and give a rather pathetic spiel on how they're looking at it, and I'm sure it's not as bad as it seems and all that fucking bullshit. And George, he got his ass out of Australia as quickly as possible and went over to the Vatican to work, and he became about the second or third in charge over there, down from the number one boy. Holy shit! And apparently he was looking after the finances of the Vatican itself. I mean, that's bloody, how much is that? A lot of money.
Good morning. Cardinal George Pell has died in Rome at the age of 81. He served as the inaugural prefect for the economy of the Holy See from 2014 to 2019. Prior to that, he served as both Archbishop of Sydney and Melbourne.
So there was a great rumble in the church and all this sort of stuff and rumours and all sorts of claptrap. The Pope come out and said a few pathetic statements too. Yeah, it is a bit bloody, yeah. But it seemed that the wheels of justice were spinning very bloody slowly. Yeah, it was just breathtaking in its scope.
This investigation not only triggered other dioceses and other countries to launch their own investigations, but it also empowered victims to come forward. The US had received 11,000 individual complaints of abuse. Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland combined estimated 15,000. France has revealed their number to be 333,000, and Italy expects around 1 million of their children to have been abused by a Catholic priest. In Australia, the Catholic Church had secretly paid out $276.1 million in compensation, and the Royal Commission into the Institutional Responses to Child Sexual Abuse found that 7% of all Catholic priests in Australia were alleged perpetrators of child sex abuse.
Again, I don't know why you'd want to be a cardinal. Shouldn't you just be wanting to help people? I mean, it's just like... Right, yeah. So what happened then? Well, George, living as number 3 man at the Vatican, Johnny, eventually charges of sexual misconduct arose and he was charged himself. Yeah.
Pell to the College of Cardinals in 2003, and Pell helped elect both Pope Benedict and Pope Francis. In 2017, he was charged with a series of sexual offences by Victoria Police. George Pell denied the accusations. He stood trial in Melbourne and was convicted on 5 counts of child sexual abuse involving 2 boys in the 1990s. He was sentenced to 6 years in jail.
And he had to be dragged back to Australia to face the bloody charges. So, Johnny, what's your main thrust of your bloody discussion this morning? Well, that's not what the bloody trouble is. The trouble was his bloody conviction was squashed, or quashed, whatever they call it. What the hell's going on? You go to court and you have this big bloke who was in charge of the Catholic Church in Australia for all that time. In charge, he's convicted by a court of law, and then later on 5 judges come down unanimously and say, oh no, it was all a lot of bullshit. We're going to set him free. I mean, no wonder there's no bloody faith in the judicial system, Johnny. Right, so it's more a rant about the judicial system rather than George Pell. Yeah, was pressure brought to bear, subtle pressure brought to bear on the High Court, maybe? Friends in high places? Yeah, the sentiment out there around Australia and elsewhere is the bastard should have been locked up for years just for being in charge and not doing anything.
But had his convictions quashed by the High Court more than a year later?
To my mind, that's what he's guilty of. Just not taking any responsibility for it. But Johnny, don't these people follow the words of Jesus? Who are they following then? Now, I'm not sure whether that's contempt of court or what, Johnny. Keep that door locked in case the authorities come and try to shut the channel down.
We love each other. What are you going to do about it?